I look at Seniors Week this week. In honour of Seniors Week, you might want to consider doing something if you're able to. Sitting down with an elderly family member, pulling out your phone, hit record, and just simply ask them to tell you about their life. You might uncover some really fascinating anecdotes maybe you never knew, but you will definitely end up with a priceless bit of audio for your family. Scarborough's Heath Piper now does this for a living. The former radio host gets commissioned to interview family members in their later years of life, and he told Justin Hunsdale about why he switched careers to this job.
I was trying to tell my 5-year-old son a story about my pa, but I couldn't remember because he was such an affable, articulate, funny storyteller that would make the whole family laugh. Like he'd have a punchline with these stories, and he taught me so much about storytelling. In fact, one of the reasons I got into radio was because of him, and I'd always wanted to record him on the show, have him on our show. I did a radio show with my best mate. We never got around to it, and because when my son asked me about my pa, I couldn't remember, nor could I articulate what he was telling me at the time, and I couldn't tell the stories the same as I did as my pa. And maybe that was the seed that had planted in me this idea of capturing 60, 70, 80, 9-year-old stories and their wisdom for their families as signposts and rough roadmaps to how to live what we all hope to be a content, happy, old-aged life.
I think it's something that a lot of people would want to do, whether it's ask someone about their life, get them to write down some anecdotes or even record something. But as you said then, you just didn't get around to it. There's certain things that you just don't get around to. And I think that's the situation a lot of people find themselves in, is they regret that they just never got around to it. You're forcing people to get around to it with what you're doing now. Why are the families wanting you to do this for them?
I never know until after I have done the interview. They often tell me it's for one reason. So, for example, I just interviewed a 99-year-old in North Sydney last week, and I was commissioned by her son. And he said she has seen a different side to Sydney. Her father was a very prominent, famous architect post-World War II, learnt his trade and has built some iconic buildings. And he said she'll just have this different historical time capsule of Sydney. Now, that's what he said to me. But during the interview, it came out that she was adopted, and she had never told anyone this. She even said to me, no one knows this. And before the whole interview had even started, she said, I don't even know why you're interviewing me, Heath. I have lived a very simple, she said, middle-class life. Nothing really has happened to me. I asked 2 questions, and she has just had this incredible... The way she gave birth will not ever happen in this country again. In the country, under the most dire circumstances, the fact she survived, her child survived, it is this serendipitous, incredible chain of events that I'm finding within these people's lives that when they're reflecting on them, it's spilling out of them because they're at that age where they don't have to be anything other than themselves. And so some of these conversations are, one, very uplifting for the elderly person because no one, I'm telling you, no one has listened to these people like I have listened to them.
I think they've been probably wanting the opportunity to talk about themselves, and it's something that people can be uncomfortable, that can be an uncomfortable topic for people to even admit to, is saying, yeah, I had an interesting life and I'm keen to share that story, and here you are saying, tell me about it. I guess these sessions must go on for a fair while, right? You're trying to encapsulate someone's life in an audio interview, and I mean, how long does this take you?
So I openly say this to my guest and the person who's commissioned me in the family. There's no way I can possibly capture their life story in 2 hours that I sit with them. And I don't attempt to do so. It is not my place. There is too much that has happened to them. I do send the questions to them beforehand. Now that's so they can consider their responses. Hey, I'm not after family dark secrets. What these conversations are turning out to be are this audio memoir of these beautiful moments in their life. Now, they could be hard moments, these side-swiping events that just they couldn't see coming, it has built the person they are. And they're still espousing such really positive, it's something to aim at. Because if you get to 70 or 80 or 90 and you're still saying, do you know what, live each day like it's your last one, you don't know what's going to happen. It's just so great. It's a boost for the family to hear.
Given that we're in Seniors Week at the moment, it's a time for us to celebrate seniors, but also to reflect on their lives. And this is one important aspect of life, is their history and documenting their history. Is this, I mean, I know this is your profession, but I mean, what would your message be to people, having sat down and listened to a lot of people reflect on their lives and get quite emotional and see the value and the importance of doing that for them and their families? What's your message to people about kind of taking an interest or documenting the lives of their elderly loved ones?
It's not going to happen at your Christmas catch-up, because you'll try. You'll ask one or two questions and then you'll go on with what is normally discussed at the Christmas table or the family gathering, the footy, or whatever you talk about as a family. It's going to take a special effort and sit down. If this history is lost and their wisdoms, it would be such a shame, because if you've lived for 70, 80, I don't know why we don't turn to the elderly more for they have done so much, and they have been through wars, losing partners, losing kids. These are things, these ruminations, and people always ask me, but what are the regrets? What are they telling you? What do they regret about their life? And you think it's going to be some major car accident, that it's their fault or something. It is something that only they are thinking about. And that's what they want to get off their chest. It's intentions behind decisions, huge family decisions, and they get to explain their side of it. So what's happening is when the family are gathering and listening to these interviews and the conversations, I think it's softening their love for the person, because they understand what they went through and how hard it was for that person to either raise kids or get through aspects of their life.
Yeah, have you done it? I'd love to hear from you if you have, what you learned. Is there a story that you're so glad that you heard? Or maybe, conversely, you hold great regrets about not having those conversations in time. Yeah, let me know. 1300 973